just
This
one activity.
conference will now be recorded.
Then we have useful situations where operations and support teams have high rate of uncertainty and variability. I think this is one of the biggest benefits of Kanban, because if we are working on specific projects related to develop modules or functionalities, we will use Scrum. But if we are working on maintenance projects, they are changing a lot. Prioritization is always changing. So we have a lot of uncertainty and variability. And with this, using Kanban allows the team to keep moving those priorities in one iteration or in one sprint. Then we have, since all segments in the workflow are visually organized, the required items reducing the wait times and ensuring speed continually support all the tasks in the workflow. This is aiming to let all the team know what is happening and let the team like very easy to respond to a specific situation that requires their effort in order to keep the cards moving across the workflow. And the next one that we have is continuous delivery, continuous iterations with the customer to understand what the customer wants. Same as Scrum, is as we are performing deliveries every iteration, we can understand what the customer wants. We can understand if something is going out of the bounds and if we need to correct some specific user stories or the scope of the project to at the end have the correct product that the client wants. And at the end, flexibility in planning and in ongoing iterations. As you can say, Kanban is more flexible than Scrum because you can change all the priorities at any moment on the iteration. Also, the iterations are not time boxed as they are in Scrum. For instance, in Scrum, you usually have 2-week sprints, but on Kanban, we can have 2 weeks sprint in one iteration. Then we can have a 3 weeks sprint. It depends on how the team is going and the requirements from the customer or the project. Are those benefits clear for you, or maybe someone on the call understands that there is more benefits that I didn't mention on this moment?
Andres, I think the difference, another benefit is the difference, like you make the work and push your results to the next area. With Kanban, it's different because when you finish your work, some guy, some area take, pull your work to make that work. It's so different, the push and the pull in Kanban compared with other methodologies and frameworks in Agile.
Yes, this is very important. I was going to talk about later, but now that Sebastian brought this up, like on Scrum, we can also use push or pull, but in Kanban, it's always pull. Once you understand that one user story is finished on a column, the other column, the responsible, will pull this user story and start working on it on the column that is required to be worked. Yes, Sebastian, thank you for bringing this up. It's very important.
Okay,
Does
thank you,
anyone
Alex.
has any questions or doubts about what the pull concept is?
Just one question. Does that then mean for the done column that someone has to pull it into the done column?
Exactly, Paul. That's
Okay.
it.
So ideally, the product owner or their proxy would be the one responsible for saying, okay, it's done and I can accept it.
Yes, in that example, the product owner will be on the done column, making sure that the user story meets all the acceptance criteria and all the requirements that are into the scope. And if he sees that it's okay, he will pull the user story into the done column. Okay, going on. This is something that is very important. And in Kanban, we won't have more metrics than the ones that I'm going to show. The Kanban board, as it is, It's a metric since we can see the status of the project at any moment. So the Kanban board is the most important metric of Kanban. Then we have rolling time, which is composed by lead time and cycle time. In this, we can understand that lead time it is the time that a user story of or a requirement, the time that it gets since it is created into the time that it is done. And the difference within cycle time is that in cycle time is the moment in which the user story gets into the iteration and it goes into the done column. So the moment when it goes from to do into done, that's cycle time. So we will have these two important metrics that will define the maturity of the team. Knowing this, the team can start working on knowing what is the time period that the team will need in order to have one, two, or X number of user stories and at each iteration. At the right, we have an example of, um, of a metric related to lead and cycle time, in which we can see like different variations. And this variation should be pretty much stable, like the same. And when we have this, we will understand that the team is very mature. This is always very related into the Scrum metric that is related to, sorry, I can't recall the name, but sorry, yes, capacity, the capacity of the team that is done on points. And here at the bottom, uh, this is the cumulative flow diagram in which we have all the hours that the team has to be done, that the team needs to done on a specific sprint, and we can see the variation at the on the ongoing sprint or iteration. Any questions here on metrics? Okay, let's keep going. Some of the management tools that support Kanban, um, obviously Jira supports most of the agile methodologies. Also, we have Rally, which is very famous as well. Version 1, another management tool that is very important on the market, and also Trello. I think we are all familiar with all of them, and all of them are also supporting Kanban, same as Scrum.
I want to mention other tool is Kanban Flow. It's like the Kanban for kindergarten. It's a nice tool when you are going to start with Kanban. I recommend a lot. Kanban Flow, and it's free.
That's a good advice, Sebastian. There must be some others, but I think these are the most important in the market, and all companies are using. If not Jira, one of the other three. Jira is pretty much the most famous of all. Okay, let's going on. Similarities between Kanban and Scrum. Since they are both agile, they have a lot of similarities. They're both agile. They both use the pull scheduling. Sebas, you were saying that Scrum also uses push, but you can also use the pull scheduling, the concept. They both limit work in progress. As I was saying, Kanban as task level in the in progress column, but Scrum has the work in progress limited at a sprint level. You can see this because when we define a sprint backlog, we can include more or remove user stories in theory, and that's the work in progress for Scrum. They both use transparency across the development since everyone on the team can see all the work that is being done by others. They both focus on delivering releasable software early, knowing that we are working under iterations. We can keep delivering um, early and letting the customer or the client know what are we doing, and the client can give us feedback about the scope and letting us know if this is going as expected or not. They are both based on self-organizing teams. This is pretty much very common on Agile. They both require breaking in the work into pieces. This is how we get to get user stories small enough to be worked by one person or another. In both the methods, the release plan is continuously optimized based on empirical data. In Scrum, as I was saying before, we have the velocity, the capacity of the team, and in Kanban, we have the lead time and cycle time. This is what gives us the maturity of the team. Questions here?
No.
Okay, I think this is self-explaining here, the similarities. And now this is very important because this is how we're going to understand the big differences between Kanban and Scrum. At first, we have that Scrum prescribes roles, as you know, Scrum Master, Product Owner, the team. But in Kanban, roles are optional. If you believe that you don't need a Scrum Master or a Scrum Coach, as it's called on sorry, an Agile Coach, as it's called in
Agile
Kanban,
coach.
yes, Agile Coach. It is not necessary because the dynamic of the project doesn't require it. You can define what roles are optional for your project. On Scrum, as we all know, product backlog is to be prioritized. And in Kanban, as this is changing all the time, can be changing because of uncertainty, the prioritization is optional. On Scrum, the sprints are time boxed. We have 2 week sprints, 3 week sprints. But in Kanban, we can have 2 week sprint, then we can have 1 week sprint, or then 4 week sprints. They are optional, so it's very flexible. In the fourth place, we have a Scrum team needs to commit to a particular amount of work in the sprint, which is called the sprint backlog, and the team needs to commit to get into this at the end of the sprint. In Kanban, as things can vary a lot, commitment is just optional. If you see that you are not able to finish one activity by the end of the sprint, you can tell the rest of the team what are the situations that are happening, and you can change it or remove it from the sprint. Then we have cross-functional teams are prescribed, but in Kanban they are optional. We can include specialist teams if it is necessary, if there are some complex activities that need to be done. In Scrum, in the sixth position here, uh, this is the metric. Scrum use velocity, like the big metric. But in Kanban, we have cycle time, which is cycle time and lead time. This will let us know the maturity of the team. At the bottom here, we have items such as stories, tests must be broken down so that they can be completed within one sprint. And in Kanban, as we can work in a user story in 2 or 3 sprints or less than a sprint, this is a huge difference here. At 8, it's very important here that we have the sprint backlog that is fixed by the work in progress, which is related and aimed to the velocity of the team. And the big difference here with Kanban is that this measure can be limited in the work in progress just at workflow level. Just we can work the amount of activities or user stories that we define as work in progress. In Scrum, we cannot change uh, the user stories, the requirements that we have. In Kanban, this can be done. Nothing would happen. In in Scrum, at the beginning of the sprint, the Scrum board is set. It can't change. And in Kanban, we will use the same Kanban board across the sprints. Daily meetings needs to be conducted. In Kanban, daily meetings are optional if the teams requires. And the last one, board down charts are prescribed, but in Kanban, there is no necessary, but you can use it. I know it's a lot of information here, but I think the information here is very legit and very clear. Any questions or any doubts about this?
Do you using Kanban points or estimations?
Um, as I was saying before, we 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 can use the estimation for the cards that we have in Kanban using points. This is optional, but not always happens like that. We can use like I can't recall the exact method that is used, but the answer would be that it's optional. If you think that the dynamic of the project requires to use a planning poker in order to point a user story that you're going to be working, it is welcome for Kanban methodology.
I want to complement your answer, Andres, because I don't know if here everybody's know about Scrumban. It's the combination about the best thing of a Scrum and the best thing of Kanban. If you are point in Kanban, is Scrumban because Scrum has in your process you need to estimate any each user story, but in Kanban, in the original Kanban, you don't need it. And it's so difficult because that hybrid method is not they doesn't have any process, any rules, and only take the best thing of each methodology and put in one. But that estimation is from Scrumban.
Yes, for instance, there are some specific projects that they won't like Kanban or Scrum, so they would say, okay, let's go. Let's have a Scrumban, and this will fix our needs, and let's go and do it. This is also very, very common.
Andres,
Sure.
would you mind to help me to figure out if Kanban also use a refinement or not during the sprint, or maybe we have a backlog that we can prioritize or something like that?
Uh, is this Alex?
Yes, sir, Alex.
Okay, hey, Alex. Yes. Um, we have a backlog. It can be prioritized or not. It depends on the needs of the project. Usually, it's important to have it prioritized. But during the sprint, you have a specific backlog in which you're working on, and the prioritization can change at any time. So the team would say, we have these two activities that are very important and are the ones that we have limit for the work in progress. If there are three, those are the three pri- top priority activities, the same priority since they are in the in progress column. And if you say, okay, this prioritization changes because requirement from the customer, that prioritization can change at any moment. Alex, are you okay with that answer?
Sure, thank you, Andres.
Okay, let's keep going. This is an example of a Kanban board that we used to have in the Siterra project for the Accruent client. If you see, we have the to do here, which is called ready and done at the end. But in the middle, these are all in progress columns: develop, review, deploy, tests. And each one of them, uh, if you see here, it's got a little word here, max. It is the work in progress. So this has 7. This was 6, but as I was saying before, it should be the same. And these two, they don't have them, but all of them should have the same work in progress limit. This is an example. Also, we have an example here on Trello. Sorry, I'm going back just to explain something very important. This is using Jira. This is a Jira board for Kanban. And this one is a Trello board for a project called DRG that we also have here in GAP. And as you can see here, they also have a lot of columns. It depends on the dynamics of the project. And I'm not sure if I can understand here, but also needs to have the work in progress in each one of the on the columns. I think this is very basic to understand since it's very visual, the visual board. I'm going to show a small video. Let me know if you can hear, which is a very quick and very good explanation in general about Kanban.
Um, I can't hear.
You
Cannot
can
hear.
hear?
Yeah.
I cannot either.
Does anyone know how can I share uh, the audio? Let me check. If not, I think I can just share the presentation so for you to see it.
Or
I can
maybe
find.
you pull your headphones out and try with the speakers with the computer, maybe.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm just looking to see if I can. That's too bad. Okay, I will share the presentation with you guys and you will watch the video. It's very straightforward and you can understand a lot about Kanban in general. This is very well explained and it's something that you would like to see. Okay, now we have what Sebastian was talking about. This is Scrumban. Sebastian was saying you can use Kanban and Scrum together, just using the characteristics or the methods that you good practices that you think that suit your needs. You need to understand that constraints of both need to be considered before adapting them. Just let them know to see if they fit the need from your project. For instance, Scrum requires time box sprints, and if you do it that sorry, if you do away with those, you cannot say that you have implemented Scrum. Both give you a basic set of constraints to drive your own process improvement. Um, this is the last slide. Does anyone on the call has any specific questions? Okay, guys. Um, thank you all for joining the meeting. I hope
Thank you.
you
I appreciate it.
understand some topics about Kanban and Scrum. I'm going to share the presentation for you to have it. And again, thank you all for being here. Have a very nice day. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Andres.
Thank you, Andres.
Bye.
Thank you,
Nice
Andres.
Thank
presentation,
you,
Andres.
Andres.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye bye.